What happens when the world gets turned on its head? We're forced to look inward, perhaps become fearful, sometimes lash out at others. While there are others in the world who don't give up hope because they believe in people. Join me, Kevin Tibbles, and Amy Goldberg for our new podcast, Believe in People, where we meet those who don't give up hope. Today we're heading to the mountains and strapping on the skis to spend some time with the remarkable Cheryl Jensen of Vail, Colorado.
Cheryl is the driving force behind the Vail Veterans Program, which brings soldiers who've been permanently scarred in combat to the slopes in Vail.
It's an amazing sight to behold veterans, many of them amputees, learning the new skills and to thrive. Today, Cheryl is joined by one of those veterans, Colonel Gregory Gatson. Cheryl and Greg, thank you so much for joining us on Believe in People.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Cheryl, I want to start with you because I've known you, at least a decade now. Where did the idea of the Vail Veterans Program come from? And how in heaven's name did you get all of these wounded warriors of ours onto the slopes?
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing story when I look back. 2003 happened to be in Washington, D.C., doing a program where we take old retired ski resort uniforms and send them off to cold weather countries through the Department of Defense. And my contact there was talking about this place called Walter Reed, which I had never heard of, and said that you wouldn't believe these injuries. And being a past adaptive ski instructor, I just thought, oh, well, let's bring them skiing. And she looked at me like I had a third eye and said, no, you don't understand. They're missing, limbs. And I said, no, I know. This is going to be great. And, as fate would have it, several months later, I met then Captain Dave Roselle, who, Kevin, you know very well, at a cocktail party here in Vail hosted by Congressman Mike Oxley. And I just looked right at him and said, how did you lose your leg? And he told me it was in Iraq a few months prior to meeting him. And I said, well, I have this idea of bringing wounded soldiers to Vail, teach them to ski. What do you think? And he looked right at me. He goes, you raise the money and organize it, and I'll get you wounded soldiers. And that's how the very first program in March of 2004 took place. And so it was, I had no idea how I was going to do it. And if you all remember Ross Perot and General Pete Dawkins. Pete is a good friend, and I called Pete and said, I had this crazy idea, need to raise some money. He goes, let me call you back. Calls me back, and Ross Perot and General, retired at that time. Vail Resorts, Continental Airlines, all these people came together, and we hosted our very first program in March of 2004. And it was to be a one-time program. There was no intent of doing it again. I was naive back then, thinking the war actually would end and we wouldn't have these injuries. And it was a young man at that first event, Heath Calhoun, who had lost both his legs above the knee, shared with me a couple of days into the program. He just looked at my husband and I and said, I have no idea why you all did this for me, but you changed my life. And that young man went on to ski in the Paralympic Games in Vancouver and in Sochi. So I realized then we had a profound impact on those 7 wounded service members that attended that first year. And then fast forward to where we are today, doing 10 programs a year, taking care of caregivers, families, still doing our core programs of outdoor therapeutic sports. But we still have great relationships with the military hospitals, and it's been an incredible journey, and one that I'm just privileged and honored to have been able to work with this really amazing group of people. And I have made lifelong friends like Colonel Gatson and many others. So I've been very blessed. But Kevin, you have actually known me, I think, about 17 years. Long time.
Wow. That's really something. And what a story. That's incredible. So, Colonel Gatson, may I call you Greg?
Yes, please.
How did you meet Cheryl? Tell us the story. How did this encounter happen?
So I guess we kind of pick up about year 3 of the program. It was a rep therapist at Walter Reed that essentially recommended that I should go out to Vail to one of their summer programs. So this was in August of 2007, just 3 months after I was wounded. My family and I went out to Vail, did some horseback riding, some fly fishing, some whitewater rafting. And like Heath Calhoun said, it changed my life. And it changed it from this perspective. When you have these kind of catastrophic injuries, you don't, most of us don't have a game plan, don't have an expectation of what's possible. And what this program does is it connects us with the environment. Cheryl talks all the time about the healing power of the mountains, and really just creating a vision that I could continue to live life. I could continue to be active and serve and do whatever I wanted. I just might have to do it a little bit differently, and that's how it not only changed my life, but it really changed the trajectory of my entire family's life.
I guess we should ask and say at this point that you are a double amputee, and that happened in Iraq or Afghanistan. And what was a roadside bomb or IED or something?
Yes, sir. In Iraq, May 7, 2007, a roadside bomb ultimately cost me both my legs and really, complete use of, I don't have full use of my right arm and hand. And so those were the injuries that I sustained.
Well, if I could just pick you up there, Greg, because in covering many of these stories myself, I mean, the initial reaction is probably one of abject horror, but also hopelessness, as in, what am I going to do? How is my family going to react to the fact I'm not whole in that physical sense, even though there probably is a huge hole inside of your soul at this point. And then you meet someone like Cheryl Jensen. How does that change your outlook on the world?
Well, you're absolutely right. You don't know which way is up. I mean, it is literally you're just doing everything you can do to get through a day. And I think when I finally kind of came in contact with Cheryl, it was I believe it was on we were doing a riding trail on horses, and I probably didn't get off on the best foot with her because she wanted me to ride a horse side saddle, and I'm like, I'm not riding a horse like a woman. So that's a little that I really appreciated. It put everybody into a tailspin, and but they made it happen. They got me on a Western saddle, and I rode, rode off into the sunset, and that is the, but that's in a small way that just epitomizes the real attitude of the program. It's not, you can't do something. It's about how we figure out how to accommodate, how we figure out how to get the victory. And it is, the volunteers and the huge support of the Vail Valley community. What we really have to point out is this is about love of country, love of our service members, and how Cheryl, through her vision and leadership, has mobilized the patriotism of a community for 16 plus years. As you know, these injuries are lifelong. These challenges are lifelong, and and many of us continue to discover or uncover new challenges as we continue on this journey of our lives.
And Cheryl, how does it work? So if people come to you, and I understand that these are free services. Is that correct?
Yeah. There's, we partner with our military hospitals, like Walter Reed, Brooke Army Medical Center, and the Center for the Intrepid, and then also the Naval Medical Center. And there is no cost for a wounded service member and their family to attend any of our programs. And that is all done through our private donations that we receive to make this foundation operate.
And there's a total sense of community there as well, because as Greg was just saying, I've attended chili suppers in the fire hall, and it really seems to be a whole community sort of pulling together. And really, it's Cheryl, isn't that what it's all about, is being part of a community?
Oh, it is. And I think, if we look at where we live here in the Vail Valley, every day is a pretty amazing day. And I think one of the things that I love to say is that when our service members and their families come into town, it is the favorite day of our ski instructors, fishing guides, rafting guides, the people who work in the restaurants and hotels. It is our time to give back in a community that, would never have had the opportunity to do this unless we had put this program together. And it's amazing the outpouring of support that we have received. Through time, we've raised just over $19 million to support our service members, and most of that money done through private donations.
Wow. And your service members, what's the experience for them? So is it an ongoing program? Is it seasonal? A couple of times people come out. How does that work exactly just to wrap one's mind around what they're doing, not only their physicality, but, to catch up with what's going on with their bodies?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that we love to say, and Greg can speak to this, is once you attend one of our programs, you're forever a part of our family. And part of being in the family is creating other programs that our service members and their families can be a part of. And so, yes, we started off as an adaptive sports winter program, but I was visiting Walter Reed, back in probably 2007, 2008, and a patient said, well, man, it's great what you're doing in winter, but I hate the snow. And I went, oh my God, let's start a summer. So what I love is one of the things that we're so blessed with is being a fairly small national nonprofit. We're able to kind of pivot in any way that we see that there's a need, and we're not afraid to do that, which is how our Veterans Path to Success program came into being with Johnson & Johnson, how our caregiver programs, you come to a retreat and next thing you know, you're coming to the reunion, so you can be with those caregivers that provide so much support to each other after those programs. And, we teach resiliency. So there's the adaptive sports side, which is so incredibly important. But then there's all these other programs that we invite our alumni to come to once they have attended a program with us. So we call it a circle of healing. So you come to one and you get in and come to all these others.
Well, again, what I would add is this. It is about the entire family. Many would see me, an individual, as someone that was wounded, but I don't think they have full appreciation that my entire family was wounded. And this program is truly special because it addresses the entire family. As Cheryl said, the caregivers and other programs for the children, but then the continuum as we go deeper in our life, as she touched on with resiliency and some of the other programs that have been developed, because it's a journey. Some of these young men and women were wounded in their teens, in their early 20s. I was 41 when it happened to me. So it's a real diverse and challenging population, and this program has really stepped up to make a big difference.
Well, Greg, as someone who came from the military and someone who was in a leadership role, leading these teenagers and people men and women in their early 20s in battle, um, my question is: do you see a change in them when you see them? I mean, what are they like when they arrive in Vail? And do you actually see a change in them as the days go on? I mean, there has to be
Yeah.
a lot of defeatism when people arrive. I can't do it. I'm depressed. I don't want to do it. I hate the world. What happened
Yeah.
after those couple of days with Cheryl and her gang out there?
Yeah, absolutely. It is transformational. To see folks that, I mean, they're young men and women that barely seen snow, much less skied. I mean, I wasn't even a skier. Um, and Cheryl can't slow me down coming down the mountain now. And so it is the level of confidence. And just to kind of tell you a little bit about my own a little story is, after a few years of going out there, I kind of felt like it was my time to kind of step aside and make sure that other people could get through. And I stayed away for 2 or 3 years, and I finally went back, and I realized how important this was in my life. With respect to my own resiliency, with respect to my own esprit de corps and morale, it's absolutely important in that way. And you see that confidence. You see people do something that they never imagined themselves doing. And then to get better, and use this as a launching pad to take on further challenges, even outside the program. This program has produced Paralympians, successful, college grads and at the best schools and at the graduate level and PhD level, successful business people. I mean, it's just it's amazing how foundational this program is, and making sure that you're not just going there to do an event and someone checks the block and they feel good about it, but this is a lifelong commitment, and we are family, and that has been the fundamental value and approach of the program.
And I think, speaking of community and family, Cheryl, Kevin tells me that you have a trip to Africa planned. What is all that about? And could you share the details?
Yeah. We, Greg and I don't know, Greg, a couple of years ago, Greg was out here for the 4th of July to do an amazing concert with the Dallas Symphony. And I said, hey, let's get up early and drive up this dirt road. And so we started to drive up this dirt road, and it's beautiful, beautiful, summer morning in Colorado. And he kept telling me to pull the car over so he could take photos, and pull the car over and let's take more photos. And I think at some point I just said, we should, you got to go on safari. And so the seed was sort of planted, and having been blessed enough to have gone on safari before, I know what an incredible experience it is. And so Greg and I just started talking about it. And then next thing we know, we're like, well, let's take some other vets with us. We have a board member who's going, Mike Carey, was an NFL referee for a long time and sits on our board. And Jennifer Cadillo, who was injured training in the Air Force, and then Andrew Kynard, who was a Marine who lost both his legs above the knee. So all alumni of Vail vets. We have some support staff going. And I can't believe it's really going to happen. How about you, Greg?
Oh yeah, sure. It's like I'm running the gauntlet of Veterans Days or Veterans Day related events, but I'm super excited. I know we'll link up on Friday, but and I shared a little bit of this with Cheryl. at one point after I was injured, I didn't know whether or not I was going to be able to use my right arm and hand. And sometimes this gets a little emotional. And it was, my camera has always been a big part of my life. And I wasn't sure I was going to be able to hold a camera again. And to think back at that moment, and now, we're going on safari is pretty amazing.
Wow.
You mentioned, Greg, a minute ago about how, and Cheryl has as well, that people who've gone through the program have gone on to be Paralympians, and they've gotten themselves good educations, and they've entered the business world. I understand that they're actually, seeing that I've seen the movie, one of the people on screen here right now has actually turned himself into a bit of a movie star with the movie The Battleship. You're in that, but are you doing television as well, Greg?
Yeah, yes, sir. I recently started in season 14 as a part-time regular in NCIS Los Angeles. Actually just filmed my second episode last week. And so we'll see how that develops, but it feels like it's a promising opportunity. And I if you're mentioning those things, I have a couple of Super Bowl rings too. So I stumbled across that.
Okay.
So
Wait. How did that happen? Greg, you have to tell the story. Super Bowl rings, come on.
Right. So this is a direct story connected to Vail. As fate would have it, we were out at a ranch, Cheryl. I don't remember the name of the ranch, but I was in line to get a Stetson cowboy hat, and I heard this voice behind me. And I finally recognized the voice, and I turned around and I rolled up to this man. I said, "Sir, you don't know who I am, but the last time that we stood on the same field was 17 years ago when Army played Alabama in the Sun Bowl, and I wore number 98." And so it happened to be Coach Bill Curry, who we had a long talk for at least an hour, so very emotional for me. And the last thing he said to me was, "Young man, you have something to share with the world. Don't be afraid to share it." Well, my classmate, Mike Sullivan, a coach in the New York Giants staff, about 3 or 4 weeks later, contacted me as the Giants were coming to Washington, D.C. to play the Washington Redskins. And he asked if I would talk with the team. And I did. And the Giants that season had started out 0-2, and they ended up winning that game. And that was the first of 11 consecutive road victories that culminated when the Giants beat the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 42.
Cheryl,
great story.
I guess the sky's the limit.
Cheryl, it's all up to you. You did this. You made this happen.
The sky's the limit. When from the lowest of lows, the sky's the limit. Yep.
I mean, it's almost fairy tale-ish. It's almost Forrest Gumpish, but it's it's what a little bit of love, a little bit of patriotism, how it can go. It can go such a long way.
Cheryl, how do you feel when you hear stories like this?
Oh, the story. I mean, I've heard that story several times. It never gets old. I still get teary-eyed. I like Greg, feel like my life over the last 19 years of doing this work is a bit like Forrest Gump, because the stars align in ways that you could never imagine. But they align for a reason, and that is that we are here for one reason, and that is to provide life-changing programs for wounded service members and their families. And with that as the guiding light and putting veterans' needs first, things just fall into place. And there has been so many Forrest Gump moments through time, so many. But, I love that when I look back at this, amazing time that I've had doing this work. I knew nothing about the military when I first started. I didn't know the difference between a Marine and a soldier. I got schooled right away. I also didn't know that, being a 4-star general and Secretary of the Army was a pretty big job. Didn't know that. So there's been, funny stories at the White House. I mean, just crazy stories. But it's, I kept a note card on my desk for a number of years that just said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And I know we have done that through time.
We have heard from Greg what he and other veterans have got from the program. Cheryl, what do you get from it?
Okay, I just got teary-eyed over that last comment. Yeah, I think it's filled my soul. I mean, as a question you asked earlier, Kevin, is, when people come here, I love to say they come as one person and they leave as someone else. And in the beginning, I didn't take that for granted. I don't take it for granted now, because it's just amazing to watch the transformation. And, if you have passion for something that will change lives, it on a selfish side, it's given me more than I could ever imagine. And, I'm just so grateful to, everyone who's supported this journey and these crazy ideas I've had through time. But all those ideas have had just such great impact. And I just, I just love to say that it's true. I've been truly blessed, and it's been a lot of work, but it's never felt like work.
And I think this begs the question from both of you, and we'll start with Greg, is each week Kevin and I ask why, because this show is called Believe in People, why you believe in people. And so, Greg, we'll start with you. Why do you believe in people?
Well, because that's our hope. If we can't believe in each other, then what's the reason for being here? And so, I believe in people because I want them, because they believe in me, and all we have is each other. And if we can't believe in each other, then I don't know what we really have.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in people because they believe in me. What a statement. Cheryl, I want to ask you the same question. Why do you believe in people?
Yeah, that's, Greg, well said. I mean, I think it's just really seeing the best in people and providing them opportunities to be the best that they can be. And, we live in very interesting times now. And yet you always want to just try and always see the best in people, and to Greg's point, and to believe in them. So yeah, that's a powerful question.
Wow. I'm inspired.
Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you for having me.
You've touched both of us today. You touched me a long time ago. Greg, I can remember you wearing a black Stetson. I can also remember you going down that mountain, and I was scared to keep up with you. So there you have it.
Never try and keep up with Greg, ever.
And Cheryl, I also remember just the passion that you have for this, and I'm just so glad that it has helped so many people, and I'm grateful to share all of this with the people listening to our little podcast, our little modest effort. And I'm very glad to have introduced you all to Amy. And Amy, I would assume you feel the same way.
Absolutely. So grateful for Kevin to introduce me to you both. Have a fantastic adventure in Africa. We can't wait to hear all about it. Pardon me. We can't wait to see the pictures.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Well, I'm just so happy to have been able to share the story of the Vail Veterans Program with everyone who has listened in, because it is doing good. It is really changing lives. And as someone who has spent time with a lot of those veterans, it's true. You arrive as one person who is missing something, and you leave whole. And whole is what it's all about, Amy.
And thank you, Kevin, for sharing that story with us, because it just was a remarkable to meet Colonel Gadsden and Cheryl. And one thing that really struck me is what Greg said, that they come, you're a family. It's not just you that's wounded, it's your entire family. So imagine the miraculous changes that are going on that Cheryl's helping to create is actually healing an entire family, not just one human being. And that's really remarkable to me. If you're interested in more stories like this and want to be inspired to get a little dose of hope each week, please subscribe to Believe in People. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.